Hello, I am your caster Hodohori, and welcome to this special Overwatch League Week 2 preview. I am joined today with three guests of mine from Team Blackwatch. Tactical Buffalo, Tac, say hi.
Hello.
My friend Blue, say hi, Blue.
Howdy.
And my friend Archimus. Archimus, say hello.
Hey, hi.
Uh, Very low energy, Archimus. Thank you very much for that. All three guys are represented by images here on our website because none of them are going to be appearing on webcam. So if you are wondering about the images,
Not yet.
they're pretty self-evident. Blue is a hard drive because he won a hard drive in the Beehive contest last year. So that's why he's a Samsung hard drive. But
Woot.
woot. But we're going to get started today by going over the first week of the Overwatch League. So the first week was a very, very advantageous week for everyone. It looked like if you were Korean, you were definitely going to win. Based on a stat that I saw on on competitive Overwatch, the amount of wins that a team had correlated to the amount of Koreans that you had on the team, and it was very self-evident with regards to the results. The results as posted: the Valiant win 4-0 over the Shock, Gladiators win 4-0 over the Dragons, Seoul and Dallas was probably the most epic match on Stage 1, Week 1, with a 2-1 win with the Seoul Dynasty. As we get on to the rest of Week 1, we have two wins by the Win London Spitfire, a split by the Philadelphia Fusion. The Boston Uprising beat the Florida Mayhem 4-0 in probably the upset of Day 3. And you have Seoul Dynasty crushing the Los Angeles Gladiators 4-0, and the an NYXL beating the Houston Outlaws 3-1, making TAC very, very happy.
Good old
It
Alka-Seltzer.
does please me. Hey, you shut up, Blue. You shut up. They proved why they proved why they are the best damn team in the Atlantic Division
Houston?
this week.
I
Huh?
Against
mean,
Houston?
isn't
Against Houston?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, London is Atlantic, isn't it?
London,
Yeah.
London is indeed Atlantic.
And Atlantic is definitely better
London-
than the NYXL.
No. London and Excelsior are the only 2-0 teams left in the Atlantic Division.
That is
So
that is right.
we will see this week who is the best team in the Atlantic Division. And as
Yeah.
Excelsior plays Valiant and Spitfire plays Fuel. So I think we know who's going to come out as at least 3-0.
Are you saying that the Fuel
Spitfire.
might actually come out on top of the Spitfire?
I think the Fuel might actually pull out a win
I don't
for
think
once in their lives.
I actually highly
that's very
debate
unlikely.
that topic.
Well, we'll get into that once they start talking about Week 2. But let's talk about some statistics here because Mr. Blue here came up with some excellent statistics that I'm here going to pop up on the screen, and I'm actually transitioning into those stats now. So, Blue, could you explain your statistical breakdown of Week 1 of the Overwatch League?
Okay, so here we see the map points for each team and their differential between the teams they face. The points for being the map points that they earned per map type, and then the points against being the map points that were earned against each team for the team that they were going against. So, statistically speaking, the actual best teams right now, in order from for the top three, is actually the London Spitfire for their amazing defensive showings, the LA Valiant for their offensive onslaughts, and the Seoul Dynasty because, well, they're Korean.
Of course.
Yeah, and
So,
it's pretty obvious here that is absolutely true. So, but Keith, continue, Blue.
from what we see here, we do see that obviously, out of the top three, two of those three teams is a full Korean team, closely followed by the Alka-Seltzers in New York. We do know that we saw amazing showings from the Dallas Fuel against Seoul and the Valiant, which are of the top the top three teams. Showing up with very high points for, but getting completely outmatched in their points against. Showing that they have good offense, but they have absolutely miserable defenses. Going through this, you also see that there's some certain trends. For example, all 4 bottom teams have not won a King of the Hill match. And the top 4 teams, they have only one King of the Hill match point against them. So I find that as a key marker for picking out which teams you actually want to go for. As King of the Hill seems to be a deciding factor 3 games in, that's when people start losing or gaining ground in regards to stamina.
Very true.
It is very true, and it's very telling with regards to Dallas. You could just sort of they're basically the U.S.'s favorite, North American favorite, based by their fan base alone. And you're looking at the field numbers, and it's just horrifying when you're looking at their defensive numbers. They basically burn out right after 2CP, and then they can't do really anything else. Those 3 points that you see on the hybrid was basically a draw that they had with Lunatic. Excuse me, I want to say Lunatic High. It's actually Soul Dynasty. But other than that, they haven't won a King of the Hill point. They haven't won another hybrid point because I think they got full held by the Valiant, if I remember right. So
That is correct.
yeah. So like burnout, huge for the Dallas Fuel. It's almost saying that like they're actually so good, but they allow so many points against them in the first 2 maps that they burn themselves out. And it's almost
Would you
as
say
if
that they're running out of fuel?
I
I say
Laugh there.
I would like to vote that we do not have Blue on next week's podcast. All in favor of this motion, say aye.
No. He's a great statistician, and I want these stats for week 2, so I am not going to vote for that. So, but another turnaround is like you look at London. I mean, they're a team that lost pretty much every first round game that they played, but they've only allowed 5 total points against them. That is amazing defense from a team that really not very many people thought that they were going to mesh right away, but they've just stifled everyone. And that is just sort of cool to see.
And actually, they only lost 1 map on the payload map. They actually won against, I believe it was, I want to say, the Fusion.
Yeah.
They actually
4-0.
held the Fusion on their payload map at the second point, or just after the second point, I believe. And
Yeah.
it was pretty amazing to me, considering the fact that out of the 5 points, London has only lost 1 map throughout, and from there they've only had a minuscule amount of points against them past the payload map, showing that the Mayhem map where they lost the payload was actually a fluke. They got themselves together, they disciplined themselves, they humbled themselves, and they haven't lost pretty much any points since.
Yeah, and that's very, very telling here. And then my final quote here is the Florida Mayhem, who I deem sort of Team McDonald's based on the way their colors are sort of broken out. You can see that
Florida
they're
McDonald's.
Yeah, you can see that their defense isn't necessarily. It's probably like bottom tier, but at the same time, it's not that bad. It's their offense that is just awful. Look at that, just 8 points. They're just 3 points ahead of the Shanghai Dragons, which is at this point I consider a tier 2 team and have no business being in Overwatch. So
They're the minor league team of the major leagues.
yeah, unless they fix something fast, I don't think they're going to win a game. Much less like any more points going forward, because I don't know if there's anybody else to beat up in the Overwatch League. So it's like Florida just needs to do something about the fact that they need to start winning maps, and they would probably be okay. In the sense that maybe that they can use that momentum to go forward or something like that. But I don't know. So, but like let's now transition into this week's matches, and we'll start with day 1 of the league. That day 1 will be actually on January 17th. Now, you're looking at the matchups, guys, and what are you watching out of the first day? Because I'm looking at this, and I don't see a game that sort of stands out in any sort of way that is sort of sexy. So, Tack, what are you watching on day 1?
A whole lot of jack shit. I'm just getting a good night's sleep on Wednesday. All these matches look absolutely horrendous. I mean, San Francisco Shock versus the Philadelphia Fusion. We'll start off first. That looks like maybe
That's
probably
the best match.
That's the best match of the day.
Only match I might even consider watching. But I mean, still, the Fusion is still a much better team than the Shock. So I'm willing to bet that it's going to be a 3-1 stomp on in favor of Fusion, and then the rest of this is just Seoul Dynasty and Houston just going to walk all over these two teams.
So
Just
Artemis,
a note to any of the fantasy players, fantasy players.
Yeah, I was
Go
gonna
ahead and
say.
start your outlaws and your Soul Dynasty players.
yeah, I would do that too.
Yeah.
Artemis, do you agree with Tack's assessment? I mean, are the rest of the games in this match, minus the first one, garbage pretty much?
I think I'm gonna have to agree. Like Seoul is just gonna walk all over Florida, and Houston is just gonna walk all over Shanghai. And this Philly Fusion and Shock game is gonna be the only decent game to watch.
Yeah. So it looks like everybody's in agreement pretty much. So it looks like we listened to Tack's uh assessment of the games. Artemis, what are you predicting score wise for day one?
Day one, I think I'm not sure about the Fusion Shock game. It might go 3-1. It might be 4-0. I'm not sure about that. I think it's going to be kind of close. The other two games, I think, are probably going to be 4-0.
Yeah, Blue, do you agree with that? I mean, are we looking at like basically 2 4-0s and a basically toss up in the first game?
I actually don't think it's a toss up between the Shock and the Fusion. I do think the Fusion has that one kind of locked up at a 3-1. Um, I did a little bit of research, and the Fusion only have the scores and points that they have, and they're only behind the Shock because they had to go against the Spitfire. Otherwise, they're a really good matchup against the Shock, and the Shock doesn't really have much of a chance in my eyes. But I do think that the Shock will take a map off of them.
Oh, okay.
But beyond that, everything else is a stomp.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you guys. I think Fusion's going to win over the Shock, and then it'll be 4-0 stomps by both Seoul and Houston. It's just not fair. That first day is just going to be sort of a little bit of a snooze fest leading into
Yeah.
week 2. So let's go into day 2 here, and you're looking at 3 matchups, 2 of which I think are very, very sexy. Artemis, what do
Ooh.
you think between the 3 matchups here? The one that I think people don't want to miss.
I think the NYX Valiant game is going to be a very close game. Probably, maybe the Dallas Houston game might be good, but the Dallas did lose to Houston in the preseason, so I'm not sure how that is going to go. We'll have to see. All of these games look pretty good to me. And as a Philly fan, I'm looking forward to seeing the Philly Gladiators game. See how that turns out.
Yeah, Blue, what do you think? I mean, like, are you going to be watching Excelsior Valiant? Maybe Fuel Houston?
I really like the look of the Alka-Seltzer Valiant game. The Valiant have proven to everybody that they're the LA team you don't want to stomp on. And if you do, they're probably just going to shoot you in the foot, and then you're going to die, and then you have to wait 8 seconds to respawn. So I do think that with the Excelsior has actually shown in their games against another really good team that's actually shown up much more than many people expected. I think the Valiant are actually going to have a slight edge on them, in my eyes, until Pine comes out and starts headshotting everything. Beyond that, I do think that the Dallas Houston game is actually going to be a good rematch. The Fuel actually got the win in the preseason.
Did
arc. Yeah, but it was a 3-2 game, and it was very close. Linkser is actually showing Taimu why Taimu is better on
Yeah, they
Roadhog.
did.
Can we all agree that Taimu should just stay on Roadhog at this point? Like,
100%.
He's much better on Roadhog.
I mean,
I want to see McCree more.
however,
McCree's amazing too.
Yeah, but I would like to point out Exhibit A, which is the Taimu AA on Junkrat versus Soul Dynasty in week 1, week 1, which was by far one of the most glorious Junkrat plays that I've ever seen.
so yeah, I mean, like, this is probably going to be, I think, based on what I've seen from the rest of the schedule, it's probably going to be the best day of Overwatch. Unluckily, it happens on a Thursday and starts at 5 p.m. Eastern, so it starts at 2 p.m. Pacific. So
Yep.
it's a bit of an odd sort of timing with regards to the Thursday schedule. Tack, I know you're Mr. NYXL, so like, please tell me how the Excelsior are going to stomp the Valiant on day 2.
One word, Hodo. Pine. Pine is going to come out and just completely dominate the Los Angeles Valiant. As long as they can keep him and Sabiel be alive, I think it'll be fine. And between Arc and your boy Jonak, I think it's just going to be a complete stomp.
I do
3-1. I think they'll take one map off of them, but other than that, it'll just be a straight stomp.
I have an argument to make for you.
What's that?
Um, Pine only comes in like once every match, and usually only comes in for one map. Usually it's the King of the Hill map.
That's all you need.
And we usually see him on Ilios. This week we're playing Oasis, so he might be on a different grounds here. You might be playing on a different map than just the King of the Hill. I think he is their King of the Hill specialist, but all considering, one map doesn't tell the entire match.
You may be right, but Libero has put on a fantastic display on each map that they played. Except, I will admit, they did leave Junkertown with a loss against both Boston Uprising and the Outlaws. However, I would like to point out that all the Korean teams do lose their first map. So
Well,
I
London
really don't.
only lost one of their first maps. Remember that.
That's a fair point. However, I don't think it will play into how the Excelsior Valiant game is going to go.
Okay, so at least we're agreeing that they're going to at least take
They're going to at
possibly
least lose.
Junkertown.
Yeah, they're going to lose Junkertown.
We're going to see new grounds in Oasis, and I do think that Oasis is going to be a competitive one. I haven't seen them perform like brilliantly on 2CP, but that's because usually they don't have to. And we'll see on the final map then, and that'll be an interesting matchup.
On Oasis, just different setting, same story. Pine's going to come out, and I mean, honestly, it's just going to be a slaughter. And so I don't know what more you
Oh
want
my
me to
God.
say
So
other than it's going to be a.
You're not giving Valiant at all a puncher's chance to win this game. Not at all.
No. I give it a 3-1. It's going to be
I
3-1.
think Valiant is going to win.
I say it's a 2-2, and they're going to have to go to a fifth map.
I'm in with Blue here. I think they're going 5 on this one. I honestly believe that
Very
Valiant is.
close.
Yeah, I mean, I don't discount the players that Valiant picked up right before the league started. The two rogue players, Soon and Unko, are absolutely amazing. And Soon is probably going to wreak havoc on the Excelsior backline. Now, I agree with you. Jonak is a beast, and I think we all saw that stat posted in our Discord where he did about 40,000 damage in a match compared and combined with like 30,000 in healing on a Zenyatta, which is absolutely insane. I think he did in one match 11,000 damage on a Zenyatta. That is insane. It's like, you got to believe that the Valiant saw that statistic too and are going to be like, yeah, they're going to send Soon directly at Jonak and they're going to try to basically like delete him from the match. So,
Yeah, but Jonak is such a good Zenyatta, and if you have a good Zenyatta, I don't care how good Soon is, I think Jonak's gonna come up on top on each of those matchups.
You have to also think, though, Soon is the hardest to kill hero or player in this entire league so far. Literally the hardest to kill. He has.
I mean, once again, I would like to point out Jonak's performance. I mean, he single-handedly carried Excelsior on Anubis. I honestly think that being one of the best, he's the best Zen in the league, and so I don't think that. I don't think Soon will really have a chance between him and Sabiobi. I really don't think he'll even have a chance to disrupt normal healing functions in the Excelsior back line.
What I do think is not necessarily against Jonak. It's the Soon versus Pine when it comes to King of the Hill, considering Tracer is known for dominating King of the Hill maps, and Pine is the King of the Hill specialist on his McCree. That's the matchup I want to see, and I want to see that happen.
And I would once again like to point back to the Excelsior Outlaws map, in which Pine completely shut down Outlaws Tracer. I can't remember his name for the life of me. I think it was who was playing
it was
Tracer for them.
I think it was Clockwork, if I remember right.
Was it Clockwork?
I think it was, yeah.
Well, yeah, he completely shut down Clockwork and yeah, you say that, but Houston was one of the favored teams coming into this
overhyped.
coming in this league.
I
You
don't
say that now.
I
say
don't
that
say that
now
they're
after
overmatched. I
Philly beat
say
Houston.
um
Oh,
I'm I'm saying that Houston is more. They weren't known for their Overwatch background. Optic Gaming was the team that actually ended up going to Houston, and I don't know if I actually heard of them playing actively inside the
hmm,
Overwatch realm
Well, they were
when they were
actually
notable.
they're actually made up of the team from FNRGFE. So
Okay,
they
okay,
were a pretty decent tier 1 team. Optic just went ahead and bought them out pretty much, is that's basically the case. So
okay.
they
So that
actually
makes much more sense.
yeah, so they're actually pretty decent, and why they do have a pretty good following. Their FNRGFE in the in the Contender Series was just sort of this upstart team that was made up of a non-real group of professionals. They were professionals in their own right, but they were not really sponsored. They had this weird sort of I don't know if it was like a weasel or a hot dog combination photo as their logo. They were like fan favorites pretty much, but.
Right.
Optic Gaming, of course, has fanatical fans on the CS:GO side. So, I mean, like once they bought the Houston domain and took FNRGFE with them, they have this ridiculous following of people who believe that they can do anything they want in Overwatch, which honestly, it's been shown in the first 2 days they can't. But
Hashtag burn blue.
burn. So we'll go to so enough of these two matches. Let's talk about Philly Gladiators here. I know this is probably the least sexy out of them all, and Artemis, I know you're a Philly fan, so please
yeah,
tell me,
Philly,
is the Fusion and their who is their tank? I think Poco, who I have in the fantasy league, who happens to
Poco, Fraggy.
Fraggy, who had Poco, who blows everybody up apparently when the DPS
Mhm.
isn't doing anything on his diva. Are they just going to stomp Gladiators here, or do you think it's going to actually be a close match?
I think this might be a pretty close game. I'm not too sure how well Gladiator is going to perform. They haven't played very many good teams so far. They played against Seoul, which of course they got 4-0'd, and then they
But then
played Shanghai last week, which doesn't really show their potential, but they did play London in the preseason and won 3-2. So I think it may just be a pretty close match. I I'm not sure.
Yeah. So final
Yeah,
thoughts,
but also,
guys. Yeah. No,
well,
Tack, please tell me. What was it?
we have 2 more days to get through,
Oh, I know.
but I would also like to point out that Dallas actually won in the preseason. So I would
Mhm,
like
yeah, yeah.
to completely dismiss the preseason as being the preseason. I don't think it really has any basis for how things are going to shake out here during the regular season. So I think Fusion will be I think they'll be a really good team come maybe I think they'll be up there with the Valiant and Dynasty uh, come mid-season, I think. But they really need to work on their cohesion as a team too.
Yeah, they're a little out there, but they were the one team that did not get to play in the preseason. So a lot of this
Mhm,
Hmm.
stuff is a result of the fact that they literally got visas. I think a week, 2 weeks maybe before the league actually started, and they've only
Yeah,
been able to practice in LA with the rest of their team. So
exactly.
you're probably right. I actually love the DPS on the Fusion. I like
they're
Shadowburn.
very good.
I love Carpe. I mean, both
Carpe, yeah.
number one in North America for a while at some point on the ladder. So it's actually fantastic. So let's get to predictions, folks. Blue, what are your predictions for the 3 matches here?
Um, since Taimu isn't going to be playing Widow, fingers crossed, I'm going to give it a 3-1 on Dallas's side.
Mhm.
As for the Valiant NY, the Alka-Seltzers, I never remember how to say their names, I promise you. I actually give it to the Valiant 3-2, saying that they're actually going to go the full 5 matches. But that's because the Excelsior hasn't seen a Tracer like soon. They may have shut down Clockwork, but Clockwork isn't consistently in. So that's one thing for me. And then for the final one, I actually say 3-1 to the Fusion because I do like Fusion's DPS play. They have a lot of synergy. Gladiators look like they panic at certain points, and when they panic, they start losing very quickly.
Yeah, I agree with that Gladiators comment. I think they do panic,
Mhm.
and they're all only running like an 8-man squad, so they really don't have that many subs. So Artemis, please tell me your predictions for day 2.
I think I'm not sure how this Dallas-Houston game is going to go. I assume Dallas is going to win. I think it's probably going to be 3-1, like Blue said. And the New York Valiant game, I'm also going to agree the 3-2 for Valiant, because I think they are going to perform and counter Pine in that game. And the Fusion Gladiator game, I think it might be a little closer because Gladiators is a decent team, and I want to support Fusion, but I gotta think realistically. I think it might be 3-2, but I really hope that it is 3-1.
All right. So, Tack, please.
All right.
The Church of
So-
Excelsior is waiting for your prediction.
All right. So, all right, we'll start off with Dallas and Houston. Dallas, I think is a good team. However, they need to definitely work on their. They have a lot of stuff that they need to work on, especially from last week. So I'm going to give this one to Fuel. I think it's going to go the distance. I think 3-2 to Fuel. Excelsior is going to take game number 2, also going the distance to 3-2. And for the Fusion Gladiators game, I think it's going to go to the Fusion. I think it's also going to go the distance, and I think Fusion are going to take it.
Yeah,
You're expecting a long day on Thursday.
I know.
am.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah, if that prediction is correct, we're probably going to go well into the night on Thursday with regards to the games.
Mhm.
I'm actually in my preview show earlier today, I actually predicted the Fuel a 3-2 over Houston. The problem with this match is that this goes beyond Overwatch League. This is a Optic Envy matchup. So there are two different groups who are not necessarily Overwatch fans who have like a stake in this match, and they
Good
are
old CS:GO.
a good old CS:GO. And I think that this match is actually going to be viewed more than the actual Excelsior Valiant match, just based on the sort of like non-hardcore fans because of who owns what team. But I do think it's going to go to the
Yep.
Fuel. I think though the Fuel have a chance to lose this match if they burn themselves out again. I gotta believe they
Right.
gotta work
Yeah.
on their defense. If they can't win any of the first 2 matches in a short amount of time, they're going to kill themselves, and Houston's going to win that game. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
That
this
first game is definitely going to be a grudge match.
absolutely. So like, then you go to the Excelsior Valiant match. I say this one is going to be Excelsior, and I do think it's going to be close. I'm thinking 3-1 though, but I think Valiant, the way that Excelsior play is they try to figure out what they do and then adapt to it, which is why I think Valiant is going to win the first map, and then Excelsior will reverse sweep them once they figure out how they play and just sort of adapt to how the Valiant do. But the Valiant do sort of switch it up a little bit here, and they might figure that out on Excelsior, so it might give them more of a game. And I have never been a fan of the Gladiators lineup. I actually honestly think the Fusion will win easily over the Gladiators, as to in compared to what other people think. I actually think they'll end up possibly winning 3-1 or 4-0. So that is my take on day 2. Any other notes, boys? Anything else you're going to be hyped up about in the first 2 days? Anything that you think we've missed?
I just want to see Soon versus Pine. That's honestly the matchup.
I'm just waiting for this Pine domination like nobody's business.
I mean, I've seen how Pine works against Tracers, but I mean, he's not perfect.
I will have that sweet, sweet popcorn ready, and I will also have that told you so for Blue. So
Hey, I'll take it. If Soon gets shut down, I will take it. If his deaths per team fight goes skyrocketing, I will take it. I will understand. I'm like, Tack, you're right. Pine shuts down Tracers. I'm never gonna go against Pine again.
All right, we're gonna go
Pine
in.
is God.
We're gonna go into day 3, but I'm actually interested in seeing that Soon versus Pine matchup too,
Yeah.
because that's gonna be so sick. So Friday, January 19th is day 3. So my point in day 3 is the big matchup here in day 3 is the Battle of Suck. It is the Shanghai. It is the Shanghai Dragons versus the Florida Mayhem, and I gotta believe somebody's gonna have to come out with a win unless the power goes out in the stadium and it doesn't allow them to play.
Yeah.
So
Let's hoping for the best.
yeah, you're looking at 2 teams who have serious offensive issues, but I gotta believe this has got to be the match that Florida pulls out a win. Right? Am
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
of course.
crazy here? Am I like thinking that Shanghai?
Shanghai is just so shit. that even the Florida McDonald's can actually pull one out.
You know what's sad though? I do think that the Dragons might pull a win out on this one.
They might actually.
If
That's what
they
I'm thinking.
do,
It might be a close game.
yeah, Florida should just resign from being a team. Honestly, if they let the Dragons beat them,
If the Dragons beat the Florida Mayhem, the guy who owns the Florida Mayhem should take the remaining amount of money that he has to pay to Overwatch and just torch that, like light it on fire,
burn
and
it.
you'll just burn it because it'll just be sort of pointless at that point. There is no way in hell that the Shanghai Dragons are going to win a match, but if they're going to win one, this is it. And I gotta believe Florida's probably looking at themselves, looking at this date on the calendar and going, "Oh God, we gotta fucking win this match, right?"
They
I
have
mean,
to.
I mean, the way I'm looking at it is that defensively the Dragons are actually better. It's just offensively the Dragons are worse. But they don't actually have bad DPS players. Undead is actually really good on hit scan, and that's what scares me. Is that I don't know if Mayhem can finish this off. I do think the Dragons have better stamina, they have better defenses, and they can just hold out on the Mayhem, and then the Mayhem are just gonna shoot themselves in the foot, not necessarily Dragons.
no, I think you're absolutely right. I think that assessment is absolutely correct because Florida's going into this match like really on a low. They're going to get stomped by Seoul on day one. That is not something that anybody debates. Going into this match, they'll be 0-3. They'll be looking at this match as their possible win, and if Shanghai pulls out a win in the first map, I can see it going to shit for Florida. I mean,
Absolutely.
they'll just be
And-
in the doldrums, and mentally, how do you recover? So
And the thing is, the one thing I really do like about the Dragons, I don't necessarily like the team. I think they're all trash, but they have amazing patience. And that is what's setting it for me. I honestly think that Mayhem are at the disadvantage in this matchup.
yeah, I think Shanghai is coming into this game with a chip on their shoulder. They have to prove to their fans that they are not so garbage that they can't win at least one game
Against
this
McDonald's.
season.
of all
Yeah,
people.
so they, as I said, they're coming into this game with a chip on their shoulder, and so really,
This is
I
it for
think,
both of these teams.
I think this actually might be a really good game because while they both suck, they both have something to prove. So
Mhm.
yeah, and you know what? Shanghai had to apologize to all of China last week because of their performance, and they were begging, they were begging for continued support. I mean,
you
they're
know it's bad when you have to apologize to an entire country.
and that's what they
Um,
did. It is
The
crazy.
population's huge of China too. It's what, billions of people that live there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and going into this, like Shanghai literally is representing all of China. They have a ridiculous player base to pull from, and the players on Shanghai are looking at this too, going, "Oh, we're not going to last an entire season before another team comes up and they just buy them all and replace them on the starting roster." Because you know what? When you have 400 million people who play Overwatch in China, there's a player base there that you can sort of dip into that you can that you say, "Oh, my current players are not good enough. Let me go over here and pick somebody up in the midseason." And that is what is also dealing with the players of the Shanghai Dragons have to deal with. They're just going to be like, we got to win this match as much as Florida has to win this match. And I think it's going to be the most interesting matchup of the entire day. Now,
They do say fear is the biggest motivator.
exactly. Now, my second point of day 3 is the fact that do you think Dallas has gotten the shaft when it comes to scheduling, considering now they
Yes.
have to play London? on-
Yes.
They play the first 3 absolute hardest teams to beat in this entire season as their first few games. It's so
Well, everyone thought they were going to be the most ridiculous team to beat.
well,
no.
they were
Everybody
going to
thought
be.
the Dynasty were.
Yeah,
they
they
were
were-
just.
Well, okay, other than Dynasty, we all know that they're Koreans, okay? The only non-Korean team. How about that?
I beg to differ, with Valiant being a showcase of none other than Soon and Unko absolutely wrecking face. I do think that once people actually recognize their names, they're like, oh no, the Valiant are fantastic. It's just that the Fuel were known for actually already having defeated Lunatic High, which is the original name for Seoul Dynasty, and beating them in Apex to take the championship. And then they sparked that rivalry. The people are cheering for the Fuel because they think that as the only people that are going to beat Korea and represent America,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
the fuel.
Yeah, I mean, like, the fuel
But they
has
only
that
have
on their
one
shoulders.
American on their team,
But
as Monte Cristo pointed out.
but the thing about it is they only have one Korean on their team, which makes them probably the most world-friendly team. I mean, you look at London, it's 11 no, excuse me, it's 12 Korean guys. Seoul is
Yeah.
10 Korean guys. NYXL is 10 Korean guys. You're looking at those three, and you automatically assume that all three of them are going to be in the playoffs in June. So who is going to beat them? It has to be Dallas, because you look at the rest of the teams in the league, there's nothing there. I mean, the Valiant have shown that they can actually be
Valiant.
the Valiant
That's
can be
about it.
good,
Yeah.
but everybody else in this league is going to get stomped by them. There was even a video that came out recently from somebody on YouTube, and I saw it. It was like, are the Korean teams ruining OWL? And I say no, because honestly, it makes the American teams have to step up, or the American based
I
teams
would say,
step up.
who else are they gonna draft other than Korean? Koreans are the best in every game, so it's just something you're gonna have to live with a league like this.
I
Yeah,
have something to argue with that. See, the thing is, it's not that they're Korean; it's that their culture is so disciplined, and that is the one
Disciplined and
thing that
dedicated.
America lacks.
mhm.
Discipline is the thing that wins every single game, and who do you look to for discipline? It's the Korean teams. Korean teams have strict schedules, strict diets, strict workout regimens, strict everything, and it is so baseline for them that they don't even think to question it. As for America, you try and restrict your certain freedoms, all of a sudden you start talking about your Declaration of Independence, talking about different things. I have my rights to do what I want and when I want, and that is where the Americans lack. That's where the American teams lack, because no coach is going to restrict their times, because they know that if you don't get the freedom from the American teams, they're gonna leave. That's just baseline for Americans.
Yeah,
And that's why my biggest argument is for the Koreans versus everybody else.
and you know this because Effect from the Dallas View posted what he does before he plays any Overwatch at all. The man,
It's ridiculous.
it is ridiculous. He plays, what is it, an hour of Aim Hero, 2 hours of another sort of
Osu? Oh my
Osu
goodness,
target
Osu is so
targeting game.
insane.
He then goes in 1 hour into practice and quick play just to make sure that his aim is still right before he goes into competitive. That is 4 hours of just prepping yourself to even try competitive, where a
It's a
lot of people.
4 hour warm up.
Exactly, and you look at guys like SQC and Seagull who go in sort of dry into their matches while they're talking on Twitch, and they might lose 1 or 2 games beforehand and just sort of have fun with the team. He takes it completely differently, and he takes it like a job. And the thing about it is like, he is already in that sort of mental realm of being a professional Overwatch player, where a lot of the American teams have players who are just not there yet, and and the teams like Seoul, London, New York are exploiting all of that right now. And it's going to be interesting once the Korean teams have to play each other, because I don't think that happens until at least week 3 or week 4? I can't really remember. But when that happens, you're going to see fireworks, because you're going to see games that are just going to be absolutely out of this world. At least I think. Compare something comparable to what we saw in week 1 between Seoul and Dallas. But
Yeah,
The first
if
time
okay,
it happens is week 3. It's
yeah.
on
Week 3.
Friday, Seoul versus Dallas.
oh
So it's
yeah,
Excelsior.
so
Oh,
so let's go through, because like honestly the predictions for all of this is going to be sort of fun. Tack, please tell me, who do you think are going to win these 3 games coming up on day 3?
on Friday,
Yeah.
Soul Dynasty Boston Uprising. Clearly, it's gonna be a Soul Dynasty roll. 4-0 Soul Dynasty, easy peasy. Shanghai Dragons versus Florida Mayhem. Now this is a tough one. Now, see, I'm gonna go in and look at what maps they're playing,
Mhm.
because that is gonna be really interesting. Because according to these Week 1 stats, I would like to point out that the Shanghai Dragons have given up their most points on hybrid maps, and but Florida Mayhem has done the best on payload maps. So I mean, I really don't know here. It, you know, I think I'm gonna take Florida Mayhem, 3-2,
And
and
for
then
Dallas
for
London.
Dallas, London. I think it's going to be a 3-1 win for Spitfire.
Yeah. London, Dallas is going to be coming off of a overhyped match on Thursday. I mean that's going to take it out of them, and then they have to play London the very next day. Come on, that's not fair. Blue, what are you thinking?
First off, I want to go ahead and say that Boston and Seoul are that's not a fair match in the first place. So we're gonna go ahead and have a 4-0, if not a 3-1. I do think it's gonna be more 4-0. Boston might rob them of a match for some odd reason, because Korean teams like to lose their first map for some reason. Um, Beyond that, I do think it might actually be a it might be a 3-1. And I want to say that's in terms of Dragons to Mayhem. I think the Dragons are going to actually 3-1 the Mayhem. Um, that's pulled from the fact that I've seen the Dragons actually full hold somebody on 2CP. That might be enough momentum to just shut Mayhem out of the picture, and then Mayhem is just going to panic, and that's going to be it for them. As for the London Fuel game, I do think the Spitfire are going to take it. I don't think it's going to be as far a distance as Tax says it is. I'm actually going to say, I'm going to say 2-0.
2-0, 2 draws. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, it is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so that's going to be
I see very high-powered offense versus a very stout defense. And what do you get when you have an unstoppable force versus an unmovable object?
Yeah, the defense wins. You're right about that. Defense always wins. I mean, I compare it to the New Orleans Saints of the mid 2000s. Like they would score 50 points on you, but they would allow 60. How do you win a game when that happens? You can't, and it's happening right now at Dallas Fuel. So I can absolutely see that happening. And Archimus, what do you think? Like, what are your predictions for all of this stuff on day 3?
I think Seoul is definitely gonna 4-0 Boston, and I'm gonna say that the Florida Shanghai game is going to be close. But I'm gonna say it's gonna be 3-2 Shanghai, and the London Dallas game. Both teams are good teams, and London does have a better defense, but I don't know if they're gonna tie that much. I think it might be.
You're right. I'm changing that to 2-1. That's going to be marked as 2-1 on my side.
That's 2-1 for Blue.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that it might be one tie match, but I think it's probably going to be the 2-1 for Spitfire.
Yeah, the thing about it is I'm looking at these matches now. Seoul is just absolutely going to stomp Boston. I think there's no point in talking about that match, and a lot of the Seoul matches especially. It's just they're so
Mhm.
good that like it would be amazing if somebody took 2 maps off of them as opposed to taking one. I mean, like the Koreans
Yeah.
like to just give one up just so they can harden themselves. I don't know. So it's like, but yeah, I think the highlight matchup of the day is Shanghai, Florida. I mean, like everybody loves the bottom of the table match because it's going to be a battle of who panics first. And I gotta believe it's Florida who's going to panic first. I think Shanghai will win this match, and I think they'll win it 3-2. I think it's going to be one of those weird games
Mm.
where Florida might take the first map, but then Shanghai takes the second map right before halftime. It'll incense Florida to panic. They'll lose the third map, and then take the fourth map, and then go into the fifth tiebreaker. And Florida is notoriously bad at King of the Hill. So if it goes into a King of the Hill tiebreaker, I think Shanghai wins. So that's my call for that. And then Dallas will burn themselves out after 2 matches against London.
Oh,
London,
yeah.
yeah, London and Dallas. The first 2 matches are going to be absolutely amazing. So you're looking at the escort map. That's going to last a while. You're looking at the what is it? 2CP goes into the second map. That's going to
Mhm.
last a while. And then by the end of halftime, Dallas is going to be out of gas. So therefore, London ends up taking that. And I think you're right, Blue. I think it's 2-1. I think they tie one of the matches. They tie one of the matches, and then at the end, it's going to be just sort of be
It's a
over.
weird, and it's an odd thing because I actually don't know what to say for London's offense because they don't have to necessarily prove themselves. On multiple occasions, their defense has been so stout that they didn't have to do more than what was already the first round of offense that they need to do. Beyond that, no one knows what's going to happen.
I can see London pulling the okey doke here because London has literally 2 full teams at their disposal. What can happen
Mhm.
here is if London loses one of the maps, they can replace all 6 players with another 6 players that play the exact same role that the 6 players that they replaced to, and then play completely differently and just mess up the Dallas Fuel. The
I
London
see that. I definitely see that
Yeah,
happening.
I mean, like the thing about it is that ridiculous flexibility is crazy for London, and I just don't think that Dallas can overcome that. So after that, it's our final matches of week 2. It's day 4 on Saturday, which
I
start
love this one.
at 2 p.m. The first match is, I think, the best match, which is the Los Angeles Valiant playing the London Spitfire. And it's a quick turnaround for the Spitfire because they'll be playing the Dallas Fuel in the late game on Friday. And now they'll be going up against the Valiant, who want to be, quote, the Korean killers in this week because they play the Excelsior on Thursday and now they play London.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. Blue, do they have a chance here, Valiant, of taking down London?
See, the way I look at this is the time frames and what they have. So what we're looking at is that the Valiant actually have less prep time technically to review the game that London has against Dallas and seeing how they play. That said, London has a long time, seeing that they have an entire day and some change to actually look at the Valiant, see how they performed against another Korean team, and strategize against that. So I think the edge actually goes to London, aside from the fact that London is going to be burnt out after playing Dallas. But I mean, we already heard the insane amount of reserves that London has, so it wouldn't be saying much.
Yeah.
So it's it's hard to pick on this one, and I really like this matchup, but I want to give it to the Valiant because they have a better offense than Dallas. The way I look at it is if Dallas is able to pull one map in a draw out of London, then the Valiant are going to go the distance and actually win this one out.
Hmm. Interesting. Tack, what do you think?
Uh, wow, this is a really confusing one for me. Because Valiant has played well, but Spitfire is just such a dominant force with their defense. Um, so I are we gonna go ahead and make picks here, or
No,
uh,
I mean we're going to make picks afterwards because we have a couple more games that we want to mention. Actually, I'm going to skip Gladiators Excelsior because I think that's a foregone conclusion.
honestly, how dare you?
Well, please. I mean, like London Valiant is going to be the matchup of the day. You got to believe. So they
Mhm.
start strong. But come on, 4 p.m. New York Gladiators. Who doesn't
I'm
think
still
that?
gonna watch, damn it.
Of course, but
I mean, you're going to be watching literally for clips of Pine, Sabiobi, and
Yes.
oh,
Libero like
Yes.
just owning Sure 4, Bishu, and the Gladiators. Honestly, because I
Yeah,
just
it'll
don't.
just it'll
Uh,
it'll just pad their highlight reels, which will
Yeah,
be
poor
glorious.
Sure 4.
Yeah, poor Sure
Poor
4.
Sure
I mean,
4.
like he's such a quality DPS, but you know what? I'm looking at the roster. It's just I don't think he has that much around him. I mean, you're looking at like you're looking at iRemix as his tank. Literally is a good tank, but he's not like
He's
world
not
beater.
he's not great.
Yeah, and then
He's good, not great, and that's the problem with a lot of the players on that team.
exactly, and you're looking at his DPS like cohorts, Asher and Hydration. Hydration is okay. Asher is it's like it's he's the one of two Koreans that they have with Bishu, so it's like I just don't know. Like, can they pull out something against against them? I just don't think so. And it's just sort of hard to see. And you're probably going to see basically highlights coming all on the side of Excelsior. Now, if it does go the other way and Gladiators disprove me wrong, I think it would be amazing and it would be the talk of the weekend. But I just don't think
yeah,
it. I mean,
they might take one map, maybe. They
I
have a chance.
I don't
Like,
see it.
New York might underestimate them, and they might be able to take the first map.
No
But even if they
chance.
do take the first map, they're not going to take any more maps after that.
I
Yeah,
say
and
the only thing I have against that is that Koreans don't underestimate people. If anything, they overestimate everybody they play against only to completely
That's
stump them out.
yeah, but they do like to lose the first map.
Yeah, they do.
So we'll go to the third match, which is a battle of, I think, of pretty much mid-table. You're looking at San
Hmm.
Francisco and Boston. So you're looking at two American teams who are probably going to end up in the middle of the Overwatch pack. I got to believe that the way that both teams play, they're going to be sort of fighting for that final playoff spot in June if they get
Mhm.
stuff to go their way. San Francisco has two players that are not even active in Sinatra and Super, who I think could
Yeah,
turn that team around and
yeah, they might be able
basically
to turn it around.
exactly and help them through the end of the year. But you're looking at a Boston team that everybody was literally shitting on, like in the preseason, saying, "I can't believe they picked up all of these players." But they're the team with a win compared to a team like Dallas, who is hyped all to hell, and they haven't won a game yet. So therefore,
Yeah,
Boston going in one, San Francisco going 1-1. Granted, San Francisco beat Shanghai. Uh, so
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's not saying much with the Uprising beating the Mayhem either.
exactly.
yeah.
So
It's
so what do you think? I mean, like Archimus, I mean, who are you looking at with regards to possibly winning this matchup?
I think Boston is going to take this. Uh, I think San Francisco currently is not good enough without Sinatra and Super to actually do well enough to beat Uprising. I think it might be a close match, but I think it's probably going to go like 3-1 Boston.
Yeah. So Blue, what are you thinking? I mean, I think this is going to be the most even matchup with regards to the day, and it could go either way. This could make for a very good Overwatch match, honestly, because the teams are somewhat even.
Remind me again. It's Dante that's on the Shock, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Well, then I give it to the Shock. Thing is that between the two, I'm not sure who has a more dominant tank display. Um, from what I remember, from the games that I've seen, and they were kind of both snorefests considering the teams that they played against. I believe the Shock have a more well-rounded team than the Boston do, and Boston is more still trying. They're trying to find themselves as much as the Shock are, and that's where the issue is for me. I do think this is going to be a very even match. Um, I do think that the Shock are going to come out on top here, only because um, I can name a DPS from the Shock. Who's on Boston?
On
Uh, Riker,
you're looking at
Yeah, Dream
mistakes,
Casper.
Dream Casper,
Uh,
mistakes, who's a great
Mistake, yeah.
DPS. But honestly,
Mistakes.
yeah, their healers and their tanks really don't impress me. Gamsu is a pretty decent tank, but
So yeah,
yeah, but I'm like looking at their lineup as Boston. It's like besides mistakes and Dream Casper and possibly Gamsu, nobody else on that sort of roster.
They're not notable,
No.
and that's a big issue. If you can't look back and think, "Oh, I remember when this person had a fantastic game against so and so." If I can't think of that, then I don't see them having any game-changing plays. I can name almost everybody on the Dynasty. I can name everybody on the Fuel, but that's because I'm a Fuel fan. I can name almost anybody on the Spitfire, Excelsior. I can even name people on the Fusion, and I can even name some people from the Dragons, but I can't. I had to have you guys remind me who's on Boston.
mhm.
Yeah, and I think that
And
was one of the reasons why they were getting sort of crapped on in the preseason. Everybody's like looking at this and they're
They're
looking.
very forgettable.
Yeah, and it's like, all right, 1, 2, 3 had mistakes, and Dreams Casper is a well-known
yeah,
DPS guy. But besides that, everybody else was like, who? And
well, and I feel ashamed for leaving Dreamcast Red. He's pretty decent. I've actually seen his play. He's fantastic at what he does. It's just that like from the games that we've seen, um, the only people that have been notable against other levels of this pro play has been on the Shock.
mm, yeah, and
So I give it a 3-0.
yeah, and Boston sort of relies on their teamwork. If their teamwork doesn't work, then they don't work, honestly, because they have like they're made up of professionals who have enough mechanical skill to play at this level. The issue is that they want to be more of a team than a lot of the other sort of teams in the Overwatch League. But if that doesn't work out, they don't win. and it's problematic. And they've surprised a couple people with what they've done so far, but I think they're about to come into a bit of a a reckoning here with the rest of the league when they have to start playing some quality opponents, and
Right, with
that's
the day before they're facing Seoul, and I think that might actually light a fire under them. That might motivate them a little bit more. I still say at least a 3-1 coming from the shock, but I
yeah.
don't see Boston actually winning this one.
Yeah, Tack, anything to add on this matchup? You think that
As much as I hate Boston with every fiber of my being, I think I'm gonna take Boston on this one, 3-1, because they were able to take a map off the Excelsior. So I do think they will actually be able to pull one out against the Shock.
yeah. Well, I think it's a toss
They
up.
might be able to. I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's a toss up. It's one of those games at which I can't predict the winner. I'm leaning to San Francisco, but I wouldn't be surprised if Boston won, honestly.
I'm the
Uh,
same.
yeah, so like that's it for week 2. Final thoughts from you guys. We'll go in order. Tack, what do you think?
Uh,
Like, are you thinking?
well, quick question: are we
Yeah.
gonna take viewer questions? Because there were a couple questions in chat.
Oh, sure. So like, okay, let's
Uh,
let's do some viewer questions here.
Okay, so a couple questions that I saw. First one, do you think Valiant is the team that could stop a Soul's phenomenal start to the Overwatch League? I'm gonna go ahead and say no. That there's no way they actually come out on top.
Blue, what do you think?
I think yes. I think the Valiant are actually they've shown to be the most dominant team at least within the US, next to New York, and we haven't seen that matchup yet. So I do think that it is very, very possible for the Valiant to be the ones to actually take the crown away, considering that the Fuel were the ones to challenge the Dynasty so far, bring a draw, a win, and 2 maps loss. Um, but the Valiant were 3-0 to the Fuel. Considering that, I would say that Valiant have the best options as a US based team to actually beat a Korean team.
Yeah, but this is the dynasty we're talking about. All right, this is the best, the creme de la creme of
If
South Korea.
if
And
I'm being
so,
honest, I think the Spitfire are better than the Dynasty.
well, I mean, I honestly think that there's no way Seoul loses to Valiant. They might lose to Spitfire, but there's no way they lose to Valiant.
Artemis, what do you think? Are the Valiant going to be the Korean, the people who take down the Koreans? Yes, no, maybe.
I think they can be, and I think they have a good fighting chance to actually do it. They've been doing really well, and depending on how well they do against New York, might change my opinion and give them even more favor.
Right.
But I still think they have a really good chance of being better than the Korean team and winning.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with they have a shot. Are they going to do it? I don't know. I think the Valiant and the Fuel are the only two teams really. I mean, maybe if Houston gets itself together and actually plays well, the Fuel and the Valiant are the two teams that can challenge the Korean sort of hegemony at the top of the league. But it's going to be telling because I think that Excelsior match on Thursday is going to basically show whether or not they can actually do it. If Excelsior
Hmm.
stop them, then it's a three
There's
man
no
race.
chance.
Yeah, it's a 3-man race for the title. If Valiant win or at least show and take Excelsior to 5 games, I think I think they tweak a little bit of stuff. Maybe there's a mid-season adjustment, and I think they have a shot. Honestly, so
Yeah.
that is going to be one of the things that we're going to look at. Tack, were there any other questions from the peanut gallery?
Yes.
Yeah.
For the Florida and Shanghai game, both teams have been on losing streaks. Do you think the team that wins will have the kickstart that they need to improve their gameplay?
Uh, Artemis, you can start with this because this is highly debatable, honestly.
Uh, I don't think it's going to kickstart their game. It's just it's the bottom of the barrel. They have no chance of being good enough to even get to the top. They one of them might be able to make playoffs, but after what we've seen so far in their gameplay, It's not very likely.
Blue, what do you
Uh,
think? This the game that both teams need to sort of start their Overwatch League like sort of venture
To
into?
to give a little bit of insight on, first I'm going to start off with this. My top 6 teams of making it into the playoffs is the Spitfire, the Dynasty, the Alka-Seltzers, the Valiant, the Fuel eventually make it, and I say possibly the Fusion, saying that they're going to miss the playoffs. I do
Mhm.
think Shanghai has the ability to grow faster than the rest of the teams in this league. I don't think their playoff potential. Um, but they're going to need more than just one win against a crap team. It is going to be a good way to actually start off, but they need to get more than one win. They need to get on a streak. As for the Mayhem, I say their backs are against the walls and everybody's making fun of them. If they lose this game, they're embarrassed and they're going to flop for the rest of the season. If they win this game, they're not going to think too much of it because the Dragons are looked at as such a trash team anyway. So
Mhm.
either way, I don't see Mayhem growing from this. I do see the Dragons growing from this.
Tack, what do you think?
Um, I'm gonna have to sort of agree and disagree with both of you. There's only so much lipstick you can put on a pig, and so I honestly think that no matter who wins this matchup, it's just not gonna make that much of a difference in the grand scheme of things because they're both bad teams, and so I really don't think it'll make much of a difference in terms of gameplay for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
And
at
so,
least this
I mean,
season.
as for Mayhem and Dragons, try again next year, I guess. I don't see them making the playoffs this year.
So, as a coach, I look at this game as super important for both teams. Honestly, I look at this for Shanghai as my ability to sort of redeem myself and prove to everybody that we are not as garbage as we've been shown in the first 2 days. And for Florida, these are made up of players who came in literally second and were favorites to win the European contenders when they were misfits. So God knows what the hell happened to them that they're in this position, but they
They-
are made up of ridiculously good players. Tavik is great. He is one of the
Mhm.
best DPS that has ever played Overwatch right now. Logix, Swoosh. I mean, these
Mhm.
are guys that are fantastic. And right now, they're a team that can't make heads or tails of what the hell is going on. And honestly, a win for them is so huge because it gets them over the hump. It gets them over this sort of block that they've had for the last like month about not being able to do anything properly. And then it's a stepping stone from there. They can use this. I think Florida can use this win if they get it. It would be devastating if they don't, because mentally they could just basically pack it in for the rest of the season if they don't win against Shanghai. But they can use this win to sort of build up and start beating those mid-table teams going forward that they started to have issues with, and maybe build up a decent sort of score that people expect them to be. I mean, Shanghai, if they win this match, Florida can basically pack it in for the season and be done with it because
Mhm.
they're not mentally. You could see the Misfits owner basically taking in 6 new guys and then just basically substituting most of these guys off, or maybe mix and matching new players to come in. There are some highly valuable sort of Overwatch free agents right now that aren't going to be available until mid-season, and I think honestly, if they underperform the way they're underperforming, you could see half of these guys just not show up in the second half of the year. So
You know what I say to that? I say from that amazing free agency pool that we've all seen, and it is a fantastic looking free agency pool. Um, get 2 of those, call them your subs, and then get on with life. You'll
yeah,
improve much more when you
Yeah.
have more than just 6 players
Yeah.
that
They just
pretty
get
much
worn out.
telegraph what you do.
yeah, and that's exactly the issue. They can't get those
Predictable.
players until mid-season, so they're
Mhm.
stuck with the roster that they have, and they're sort of screwed. Which is what I think it was a big mistake on the side of the Mayhem management to only go with these 6 guys. You have a guy like AKM who is not even in the league, who is a top tier DPS that could play as a substitute for Logix or Tavik when you need to, who would have been absolutely amazing. You have a tank that was also on Rogue. that what is ended up going free agency and is not on an actual tier 1 team at this point, that could have been used to sort of counteract Swoosh, who could end up being a flex and play your off tank as opposed to having to be the monkey the entire time because he's new to the tank role. So major mistakes on the management side of the Mayhem, I think.
And that's
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
believe is causing most of their issues. Since they have one mindset, they have one way to go. People adapt, especially the Korean teams. They adapt very well to players' playstyles, and if you can't sub those players out so that they can stop adapting or countering or doing anything that you're already showing that you've done or can do, then it's easy to plan against you. And again, with China, they have so much patience, and that's where they are, in my eyes, going to win out against the Mayhem. Mayhem don't have anything to back themselves up when they need backup. They don't have the cavalry.
Yeah. Can we all agree that this is
Mhm.
basically a mental battle between the two? This isn't about mechanical skill anymore. This is about
Yeah.
mentally getting over the hump and actually winning a game. I mean, you can have all the skill in the world, but if you mentally are not in it, and all of us have played in games where we probably are the better team, but we lose because, we're just not in the right mindset. And I just think these are two teams that are just stuck in that sort of improper mindset with regards to winning that is just not allowing them to just sort of finish off and get over the hump with regards to
I
it.
can
Yeah.
I can agree with that. Darn you, Raza. Yeah, I can agree with that. I didn't talk to that kid for about I think a week, maybe two. Ark, I know he gets into that mindset. Tak just gets tired.
Yeah.
I don't think he cares enough in a lot of situations.
So
Implying I cared at all.
any other all right. Any other questions from the peanut gallery?
I think that was it. I mean, the guy oh, what makes you so sure that Florida isn't capable of pulling it? I guess this is directed at me. That what makes you so sure that Florida isn't capable of pulling it out? To Vic and Logic have both shown to be phenomenal players. Yeah, but two players don't make a team. You still need four more guys to, be a team. So while they are excellent players, they don't have that backup that they need. And so I think Florida needs to reevaluate their team strategy and look at that waiver wire and maybe pick up some better people that they click with. I mean,
See, I agree with that because all considering, um, we have the gladiators that are showing the same kind of potential as the mayhem are, but they have better players in my eyes to actually support them. They win against the dragons. They don't have an entire team, but their synergy works. And you'd think that the mayhem have the same thing. You would think, and they're
Mhm.
losing to mid-tier teams, and it's sad to watch.
Mhm.
Yeah, it really is, and it is all about the team aspect. I honestly absolutely agree with both of you. I mean, like, you can be the best player in the world, but if you don't have a guy behind you or in front of you that is sort of has your back the right way and play with you the right way, you're not going to win.
Unless you're
And
Fleta, of
I'm
course.
pretty sure Fleta, of course, but Fleta has the best two supports in the world, in my opinion, and one of the best,
Absolutely.
and one of the best off tank in Zumba, and probably one of the best tanks in Miro, who's a better Winston than he's a better Reinhardt, but he doesn't need. And I said in my preview video earlier today, he doesn't have to be a good Reinhardt when you have who you have behind you. So
Yeah.
that is a perfect example of, like, everybody carries their weight and they become amazing. So
Near unstoppable.
exactly.
Mm.
So
Or in other words, they become Korean.
you become Korean. All right. Final thoughts from everyone. Let's start with Blue. Final thoughts on week 2 of the Overwatch League. What do you
Um,
think?
Fuel needs to step it up. Florida versus Shanghai is going to be a very interesting match. I think that the Spitfire are going to have challenges from both the Fuel and the Valiant are going to attempt to be Korean killers this week, considering they face the two of the Korean teams coming up. Those are all going to be interesting, and that's my final calls for the night.
Yeah, Artemis, what do you think? Final thoughts from you. What do you make of week 2 of the Overwatch League?
Gonna be a big week for Valiant, slow week for Seoul again, and the Shanghai Mayhem game is gonna be a game to watch. And I mean, that's about it. A lot of the other games are not as important to these teams.
Especially day one. Day one kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Hmm
How about you, Tack? What does
Uh,
the Church of Excelsior think of of week 2?
I think this week is going to make or break the Atlantic Division with both Excelsior playing the Valiant and Spitfire playing the Valiant, and so we're going to see really who is the best. Well, Spitfire also plays Dallas, so we're going to see really who is the best of the best in the Atlantic Division. So Church of Excelsior definitely will be watching on Wednesday or not
Thursday.
Wednesday, Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday and Friday, Saturday. Um, as for the rest of this, Soul Dynasty unfortunately does not have a good week, so I would like to pity their fans for not having a decent spectacle to watch. Um, as for let's see, Fuel. Fuel is really gonna have to prove themselves this week, going against Houston and Spitfire. Spitfire one of being one of the most dominant teams in the league. So, but overall, I think it's gonna be a good week for Overwatch.
Yeah, final thoughts for me is this. Dallas Fury got hosed on the scheduling. Honestly, there is a possibility they're going to go 0 and 4, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did. They'll probably
Mhm.
make it all up playing and destroying mid-level teams as the schedule adjusts itself through stage 1. Korea will dominate again this week, honestly. Seoul Dynasty could probably pay their backups and win both of these games, and they could do it in a walk. I mean, like, get Guido in there. I know he's probably, like, sort of just sitting there eating kimchi in the back and just sort of watching the games. And honestly, like, why not? Just put him in there. Put Bunny in there and just, like, have Left Fleta, like, tour LA while they're playing, honestly, because they're not going to so and then honestly for like the Valiant, if they can pull out a win this week against either London or Excelsior, it's just going to throw the entire sort of balance of the league out of whack, and it's going to make for a fun rest of stage 1, because you're going to see Korean teams start to take the Valiant very, very seriously, and you're going to see the mid-level teams take the Valiant even more serious than they did, in order to sort of knock them off their high horse as being the guys that sort of dislodged either Excelsior or London. So, uh, final thoughts also on the Shanghai Florida game. Please watch this game, because I honestly believe that if you're watching this now and you don't watch this game, you're going to miss out on some of the greatest Twitch chat that's going to happen between these two teams. because honestly, people are going to take a look at this game. You're going to see two teams that have not won anything, and they're going to be playing for something, and people are just going to be going to town on Twitch chat, like, for Shanghai and Florida. And I think honestly on Friday that's just going to make some great viewing. And honestly, it's funny because that's the game that Shadow and Yeezy and Rangrith are going on the 19th. So they will be in the stadium on Friday the 19th watching Shanghai and Florida.
Oh my god.
That's gonna be a good game. It's gonna be a good game.
It's going to be a great game, and I think that we need to tell Yeezy and Shadow and Rangrith to bring some pro Florida or pro Shanghai signs in the front along with their beehive stuff, because I just
Yeah.
think that they'll
Yeah.
get on camera because of it. So that's going to be it for us here for this week 2 preview. We're going to be doing this weekly with our cast of characters here as we analyze the previous week and then go through week 2. I am your caster Horahori. Special thanks to my guests this week, Tactical Buffalo, Blue,
Hashtag fuck Valiant.
Blue and Archimus. We'll see you next week for another week preview of the Overwatch League. Thank you very much.